When it comes to Poland, there's no one that knows the local Polish market like my friend Leszek Kadelski. Leszek is also the marketing communications manager here at Wolk After Sales Experts. And Leszek is a true expert. He knows how to ask questions of the Polish market, and in specifically digging down into the automotive industry, whether it's distributor or even further down into the workshop level. Now, probably because Leszek's background really comes out of being a journalist, so he knows how to ask the right questions, and it's a great privilege and a great honor to present both a colleague of mine, but someone who's also a personal friend of mine. So with no further introductions, let's listen to Poland, and I welcome Leszek Kadelski.
Hello everyone, my name is Leszek Kadelski. I work at Wolk After Sales Experts in the capacity of marketing communication manager, but today my role is quite different. I also work from my home city of Warsaw, which is the capital of Poland, and today my task is to describe you how Poland is coping with the COVID-19 induced crisis. So without further ado, let's jump into the slides and let me show you how it's being done in my country. So let's start with the Poland in a nutshell to describe this specific of this country to those of you who are not familiar with it. Our population is mostly 50% of the one of Germany, which are our Western neighbors. Here are the basic data that you can find about the GDP and, for example, passenger cars in the circulation. And also here's a small plug of our products, the screen from our business intelligence tool, Aftermarket Access, when you can see what is the volume of aftermarket in Poland. We think that in 2018 it was 7.9 billion of euros. This reflects the end consumer prices without the tax and the work of the mechanics that was sold on the Polish market, and this is not quite 6% of the total aftermarket volume in Europe. Of course, Poland being a still developing country, the share of independent aftermarket is quite big, as you can see here. Also, we have over 20,000 garages in Poland. Most of them are multi-brand mechanic garages, as you can see on this screen from Access as well. We have around 1,300 garages of the OES. Auto centers are not our thing. We mostly build a long-standing relationships with the garages, and this is how the client's loyalty is being built. Also, there's a lot of trucks registered in Poland and owned by Polish transport companies because, well, 1 of every 4 trucks on European roads is registered in Poland and delivers goods across the whole European Union. So let's see how the 2020 looked like in Poland. We had the 3 distinct stages. In spring, we had a lockdown in Poland for 6 weeks in March and April. The Poland has just stopped because almost all business was closed. You couldn't go to the restaurant, you couldn't go to the shopping mall, but which is most important, the workshops stayed open. There was a very limited number of workshops who decided to close because of the COVID. But on the general level, the automotive industry, the independent aftermarket in Poland stayed open on business and continued as best they can. There was only one exception for a distributor called Hart, which closed their business for about 2 weeks and then came back with new procedures to operate. Because during the lockdown, it was very important to introduce a social distancing measures to make sure that everyone is protected, both on the side of the workforce and the clients. Then we moved into the summer of optimism. No surprise there. There was a lower number of cases. The countermeasures against COVID were relaxed, although not all of them. So restaurants were open, local tourism was growing. There were some restrictions, of course, to travel abroad, but still, at least within Poland, people were free to move again. And also our Prime Minister declared the war on COVID as a victory. So there was this general feeling that this is something in the past. We don't have to care about it anymore. And therefore, this translated into some activities of the independent aftermarket operators going back to normal. It was back to the on-site trainings and real-life promotional events. This was all conducted during the July, August, and September. But still keep in mind that the trade fairs were cancelled in Poland, so no trade fairs happened in Poland in 2020. And more importantly, already the 2021 edition of, for example, Profi Auto Show got cancelled already in the spring. For the next year, we know that there will be no trade fairs in Poland. As for, of course, the automotive independent aftermarket. And then we moved into autumn, back in already late September, when the kids went back to school. We saw a spike of the number of cases. Some anti-COVID measures were reintroduced, but this time, which is quite different from the spring, the reaction of the economy was more calm, because we knew what happened in the spring, so we knew what to expect. We also knew that it doesn't really affect the automotive industry, at least insofar as it affects, for example, the restaurants and the travel industry. When the hotels, for example, are closed now. This is not the case for the independent aftermarket. So even now, when we are in lockdown in Poland in January, the workshops are open and distributors operate without problems. So it's only about how the general economic atmosphere affects the choices of the end consumer. This is the only thing that affects the independent aftermarket, not the problem of, for example, workshops being forcibly closed in Poland. That's not the case. So we have these three topics in all the presentations. You can see the comparisons between 2008 crisis and present days. Let's see how it looks. Here, this is one thing when Poland, from the market research perspective, Poland is quite a nice country, because we have two of our top three distributors that are publicly listed companies. So we can see how the sales develops in almost real time in monthly reports. We don't have to wait for the data, as we have sadly for a number of markets in Europe and across the world, but in Poland we can see how the market develops in real time thanks to those two companies. Intercars, probably most of you know. Auto Partner is new to the stock exchange, but still this is a very strong competitor for the title of being on the top of Polish market. So red line is Intercars, green line is Auto Partner. And the values are comparisons to the previous, the same of the previous year. So, for example, we see that the January, when there was the happy time, when we didn't think about COVID at all, it was already 26% better for Auto Partner than it was January 2019. Intercars has had a less fortunate start, but still you can see from that graph that there were only two bad months. And that was March and that was April. Already in May, you can see the surge upwards, and then during the summer, it was almost back to normal. And September especially was quite okay. There is no surprise. During the holidays, people are spending money mostly on the holidays, and then after holidays, they will get back to the workshops. But then, late of September, a second wave of COVID. And that prompted some level of concern and drop of the sales in October, but still by November, back to normal. In December, most definitely back to normal. The data for the January will be known in the half of the February, but I don't expect that to change. It means that the sale of those leading Polish distributors will stay strong. And also we can check because those are publicly listed companies, we can check the mood of the investors, how they perceive the market. Warsaw Stock Exchange is no Wall Street. There is less speculation. There is less of capital just roaming for a quick gain on the short term. So this is something we can treat seriously. So here we have the graphs for full 2020. In the above we have Intercars, below it's Auto Partner. You can see that it starts regular, then you have the first dip here, which represent the first lockdown in March and April, when everyone was concerned, and then it quite quickly bounces back during the summer. And even with the problems here and here in the October, you see that the dip is quite minimal and already bouncing back to the pre-crisis level. And Intercars is a publicly listed company for long enough, so we can see the data for it, the historical data from 2008 to see the comparison, how it was during the previous crisis. So here again, on the below, you have the same graph as the previous slide. On the above, you see the 12 months that shows the beginning of the 2008 meltdown. As you can see, in the beginning, it seems similar. I mean, when there is a problem on the market, the prices go down, although in 2008 quite more significantly than in 2000, as you can see here with the values, more significantly than in 2020. But this started in July. In September, October, there were problems, and then it started rebounding. But before the end of this 12-month period, it never got back to the level that it started. This is not the case now, because already in the spring, so like 6 months, spring of 2020, so it's like 6 months in the COVID crisis, the prices were above the starting point before even the COVID was considered a problem in Poland. So this is a clear answer that 2008 in Poland it was something different than we are dealing today, and we are quite sure that as soon as COVID is gone, we are back to the normal path of growth. What we learned in 2020, this is quite important, because what we have learned in 2020 will determine what we do in 2021 to become better. So certainly the average mileage of passenger cars in Poland dropped compared to 2019. This is no surprise. A lot of people work from home. Some people were laid off. A lot of retail shops, for example, are closed, and those people are not traveling to work anymore. So that's expected. Even I myself, I drove like 50% of the mileage that I covered in 2019, simply because there is no business travel. But keeping that in mind, it doesn't affect directly trucks, agriculture, or off-highway segments. So constructions are continuous. Agriculture works as if nothing happens. There are some minor downsides on the transport, because of course the transport was interrupted during the closing of the borders in the spring. The general economic atmosphere across the Europe is that there are probably less things to transport, which is normal, but still those vehicles in circulation, they still need service, they still need parts, they still need expert workmanship to keep them running, and they are generating steady income for the independent aftermarket. And also, while it is true that less people are traveling to their offices, for example, or any way of working, any place working away from home, you can see here with the comparison of the sales of the tickets for public transport in Warsaw that in 2020 there was 35% less tickets sold than in the previous year. So less people are using the mass transport. This is true not only for Warsaw but also for smaller cities in Poland that have mass transport. General ballpark minus 30%. That means that the worst car is still better than a bus, tram, or subway. People are simply scared to travel with strangers, although from any number of scientific studies we know that it is not the place when we get the COVID. Probably not really in the mass transport. This is rather safe, but still the public perception is that it's better to have any car, any kind of the car, than to travel with a modern mass public transport that we have in our cities. And this translates into the fact that a lot of the very old cars that were kept as a backup or used occasionally now are driving more. And already talking to a garage specialist, we can tell that there is a demand for parts, as in the reference number, for those old cars, and those parts are driving the sales of distributors. How was the situation in the workshops? Because we talked before about how they had to adapt. So this is a picture taken in the November during when I was changing my tires on my car to the winter ones. This is not mandatory in Poland, but still a good idea. And because, well, last week in Poland was quite snowy, that was a good choice to change the tires. So this is a workshop that I visit frequently in Warsaw, quite a small one. It's nearby my home. I like the people. I have some relations with those people. And this is how they adapted. First of all, you can see that there is a line, and the customer doesn't go beyond the line, and the people working there are not going on this side of the line. So there is a separation. This is all outside of the regular office, because the office is behind that window. This is the place when you will wait to your car get fixed or the tires will be changed. This is a place when I would sit on the normal situation, but the new normal is that I have to stay outside. There's a clear marking. There's a reminder about wearing a mask, keeping the 2-meter distance. This is marked as the safe zone, and of course biohazard. And if you have to, there is plenty of disinfectant fluid. There are single-use gloves. And here you can see this is a terminal. You can pay with cash. You don't have to hand any money, because this is a preferred method of payment. So majority of workshops adapted quickly, and there is no fear from the customers that oh, I don't want to go to a workshop because I have to meet people and do something. No, people know the rules, know how to act mostly. So the perception is that it's safe to go to garage. So this is not preventing car owners to visit the garages. Also, as part of this narrative of business as usual, the work hour price is slightly higher than a year ago now. It is customary that with the new year there are some new prices, and the COVID we see now, the COVID doesn't affect the regular price creep that we see in Poland, just because the price of work hour in Polish workshops is still quite low. This is like 15-20 euros, depends on the region, an hour. And with salaries going higher in Poland, it means the work hour ratio, work hour price has to come higher as well. But of course, a lot of people earn less because of some limited time of employment. A lot of people actually lost their jobs altogether because of the forced close, for example, in the restaurants and in the retail shops. Therefore, some customers are asking for more affordable alternatives. For example, less people are asking for the premium parts, more look for the private labels of some budget alternatives. So that affects the overall income of the garages, and garages are concerned that they will earn in 2020 less. But let's keep in mind that the cars are out there on the road, they are driving, so this is not sales lost and never to be regained again. This is more like delayed income, and those customers at some point will have to go to the garages, because, as I said before, a worst car is better than tram, and if you want a 1,000 or 2,000 euro worth a car to drive and be reliable, you have to fix that car. Let's see now how it was for the parts manufacturers in Poland. So that's clearly a red year. So the drop was about year to year, I think it was about 20%. The reason is very simple. Most of those parts that are produced in Poland are then shipped to the factories of vehicle manufacturers and become a part of new cars. If there's less new cars produced in Europe, then clearly there is less parts produced in Poland. But again, we have this summer of the optimism, and already the Q3 in 2020 was 5% better in terms of production sold than the Q3 of 2019. And on top of that, as per survey of automotive suppliers in Poland, 80% of the managers expect 2021 to be better than 2020. So while we are still under the lockdown, there is an optimism that this will pass. And of course, there were layoffs from the parts of some manufacturers, but at the same time, others were actively recruiting. For example, Mercedes-Benz engine factory that is currently in the development in the Lower Silesia region. They are recruiting. The number of workforce there is increasing, because it takes some time to train people. It takes even more time to achieve the maximum capacity. Therefore, they are already thinking ahead, like in 12 or maybe even 18 months ahead to the post-COVID situation. And also new car sales, obviously down, probably in line with European numbers, as Antti Wolk will show with his presentation about general outlook of Europe. So after 11 months of 2020, we are down -24%. But keep in mind that 70% of new passenger cars in Poland are sold to the companies, and only 30% goes to the private drivers. So this is more like business decision on part of the companies that we are now in the uncertain times, and we need to think carefully what we are spending our budget on, and maybe we can wait with those new cars because the old cars are still running. So this is why this is not really a concern that there are less new cars sold. And already we see that the sales are catching up. So this is a small hiccup than a prolonged crisis. So even from the point of view of the independent aftermarket who will take care of those cars further down the line, it won't be that much of an issue, especially when the main source on influx of new registration in Poland are actually the second-hand passenger cars and light commercial vehicles being imported to Poland. And again, as you can see, for each one car, there are two second-hand cars being imported mostly from Germany, but generally the Western countries of Europe, with the average age of those cars being 12 years. Those are the cars which are mostly sold. Those are the 5,000 euro cars, which are the most interesting to Polish customers, because the median income of Polish employee is around 600 euro after the tax amount. So clearly the new cars are very, very expensive from the point of view of the general population in Poland. Therefore, they are looking mostly at the 5,000 to 6,000 euro cars being shipped from Germany, and this is those 12-year-old cars. And yes, this import was also 16% down, but the reason for it is quite different. The reason is that borders were closed. Those who import those cars couldn't go to Germany and acquire those cars and ferry them in Poland. So this was mostly a technical problem, not the lack of demand for those cars. So what about new trends? What we see on the market? What has developed? No surprise there. 2020 will go down in the history books as a year of digital. This is when you are stuck at home. Internet is the window to the world, and it's not only about entertainment, not only about maybe knowledge gathering. It's about conducting your daily life and conducting your business remotely. And we were quite well equipped in Poland to do it, because we have quite modern infrastructure in regards with the internet. Also, the general population is well used to using the e-commerce, is well used to use any apps. For example, our telecoms and banking systems are quite advanced. There are some special services that allow you to pay, for example, from one phone to another phone without the need of a credit card or a debit card. So we are well prepared to work this way. For myself, I rarely use any cash, because it's either my phone or it's a card. It's way more convenient for me. So it didn't require a big change of the way of thinking of the general population to do it, the digital. Nevertheless, there's always room for improvement, and those are the facts I've noted from the market that are worth mentioning, according to me. For example, the Profi Auto app has a nice and very novel feature on Polish market. Profi Auto is the brand of Motoprofil, our second biggest distributor on the market. And Profi Auto is pretty much the front that a car owner will see. There's a big network of over 1,000 garages called Profi Auto Service, and there is an app both for garages and for the customers. But now it was the very important feature added, that the workshops that you can, as a car owner, you can pay with that app in the workshops, but you can not only pay in one go, you can pay in monthly installments for the service. So if you are in a tight squeeze financially because you lost your job or you're not getting 100% and you need your car fixed, you can do it and then pay for the service even up to 48 months. That's quite an achievement. Other distributors, for example, engaged in social media, like Intercars created a closed Facebook group for the motorbike workshop specialists, and already they have 3,300 members. This is using new way of communicating with the customers. Elite Poland is a big distributor from the southern Poland, covering whole country. They are owned by the RIA group, therefore LKQ. And they were for a long time, before the rebranding also as AD Poland, Auto Distribution Poland, they were focused on selling to the garages. This was their main target, their customers. They never cared about B2C relations. But during the lockdown, they developed their business-to-consumer online shop, and now you can buy, as a car owner, parts directly from them through the internet. And the last 2 points are the most universal ones. For example, when you cannot go to the workshops to train the specialists there, you can do an online training. And let's face the fact, a lot of those trainings are just marketing activities to convince the customers in the workshops that your parts are the best parts and they have to buy your brand. Those trainings are quite easily translated into online activities, and this is exactly what happens. Also, this was a year of digital marketing replacing traditional sales representatives going to the workshops. They were back in business, the traditional visits and the traditional ways of doing the events. They were back in business in the summer, but now still this is not possible because of the anti-COVID measures. And I think those 2 last points are here to stay. Of course, not every training can be done remotely. There are some trainings that require hands-on approach, and those one, as soon as it's possible, they will be resumed in this on-site version. But still, I think independent aftermarket in Poland will realize that the digital marketing is more effective and also cost-effective, mostly cost-effective, to reach the workshops. And while sales representatives will be always with us and they will always travel, but still more digital marketing will come. And this will become a part of our new reality, even when the COVID is gone. But overall, as for the Poland, I think this is our country's nice example of showcasing how the flexibility and agility of independent aftermarket is made it the very good suited for dealing with this kind of crisis. No one planned their business strategies with COVID in mind. There was no lockdown before in the history of Poland, at least after '89, when we become a democratic country again, and then we joined the European Union. So that was something that no one expected. And most to the point, not only like in general perspective, we didn't expect that, but also we didn't expect that even in the January. No one prepared that, no one restocked before that. This was kind of surprise, but still it was proven that the aftermarket can both be viable as a business in this kind of time in trouble, and also provide the essential services for the population, making sure that the mobility is ensured. Thank you very much, and enjoy the rest of the presentations.
Do you have a complete strategic market overview covering all of the key players in 37 countries across Europe? Can you compare your sales by country against the market and your competitors? Are you aware of all of the latest trends driving the aftermarket today? Would having all of this information in your pocket be of benefit to you? The Wolk after-sales access database gives you a complete market structure, showing you the key market players by country, taking the guesswork out of any strategic, tactical or marketing decision, guiding you and your team to the best decisions that you can have for your business today. To find out more about how you can access market volumes, understand the European garage structures and the who's who of buying groups, sign up for your free 30-minute sales access database session now.